to this last session of the second International Conference on Disability and Disaster Management with the theme of Disability Inclusive Disaster Risk Management. Let me introduce you with the panelists, Honorable Chair and the Honorable Chief Guest of the session. We have here today with us the Chief Guest, our source of inspiration and knowledge, Mr. Kahor Rizvi, Honorable Advisor to the Honorable Prime Minister of People's Republic of Bangladesh. The session will be chaired by the idol of the civil service, Mr. Nazibur Rahman, the Principal Secretary to the Honorable Prime Minister, People's Republic of Bangladesh. Ladies and gentlemen, we have here panelists and key panelists. Now I am declaring the name of the key panelist, the Goodwill Ambassador of WHO in the Southeast Asia region, International Focal Point on Advisory Group on Disability Inclusive Risk Management, and our inspiration, Ms. Sama Hussain, our leader who has advocated the disability issues from the government, Mr. Shah Kamal, Honorable Secretary, Minister of Disaster Management and Relief, Mr. Riaz Ahmed, Director General DDM, and we have panelist Carlos Kaiser from Chile, Bhaskar Bhattacharya, Program Manager YPSC Younger of Social Action, Lenieta from Fiji, and Valerie from IASC Task Force. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope and believe that we have got the right food to have this session, and I hope you will be enjoy and you will be able to give your comments or you can interact with the valuable speakers. Thank you very much. Now, I am handing over the session to our Honorable Chair, Mr. Nazibur Rahman, the Principal Secretary to the Honorable Prime Minister, People's Republic of Bangladesh. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Additional Secretary, Mr. Shatto Bruto Shaha. Good afternoon, Excellencies, distinguished guests, participants, ladies and gentlemen. I'm extremely happy to be part of this session, and given the role that I will have to play as chairperson, I will not speak much. I will only say that I was at the inaugural session on the 15th, and I have seen the energy, organization, and the vibration that was flowing throughout the inaugural session and all the working session that had eventually followed. And I knew that Bangladesh, as a disaster homeland, has been trying to make a happy marriage between disaster management and the inclusive approach, especially focusing on disability. And in our case, Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina is leading by a great example. She has activated what we call the disaster risk reduction framework in Bangladesh, has been very supportive of disability inclusive development process, and especially disability inclusive disaster risk reduction. So I'm representing her office, although I'm chairing this in my personal capacity. I'm very happy to welcome again the Honorable Chief Guest, Honorable Advisor, Mr. Kahor Rizvi, our keynote speaker, one of our iconic personality, Madam Sama Hussain, for her specific role on these issues, especially those who are focusing on disability and autism. I was in New York. I had seen from the very close point how she was playing a lead role at the UN headquarters level to make autism one of the important issues. It was an ignored issue at that time. And I'm also very happy to welcome all the distinguished panelists from different regions, and I hope that through them we will be able to scheme out all the major activities that you need to undertake in course of next few months, years that will come before us. So without further ado, again, I welcome you all. And to start with, we have the four panelists, and Mr. Carlos Kaiser, ONG Inclusive from Chile, will take the floor first, and each panelist will be given 3 minutes. Normally, wherever I go, I have the habit of starting my stopwatch. I will do it again today. So when Mr. Carlos Kaiser takes the floor, the stopwatch will begin. So the floor goes to Mr. Carlos Kaiser, who has come all the way from Chile, one of my favorite countries. Thank you. I've been there. Thank you.
Thanks for this marvelous introduction to the topic that we are addressing. I would love to point briefly many ideas that we need to share. I'm not going to talk about the many technical aspects that we have been learning and covered during the whole sessions we have been experiencing here. But I have to say that there are a lot of things that we are learning. I'm quite impressed when I learned that here now the educational ministry is just teaching kids, small kids in the schools about disasters, emergencies, and also that you have plans about disabilities. Education is a key aspect. When we are saying that kids are the future, we are wrong. Kids are present, and we need to teach them how to behave, how to do good things for the future. And if we are going to have an inclusive world, we need to educate them to be inclusive people, inclusive-minded, to appreciate people how to do things. If not, probably could be too late when they are grown up. So the first idea for the future that I learned here is education, education, and education. Second thing that I would like to say, I want to give you a good news, something that is going to happen next month. As you know, in South America, we are going to have a sub-regional platform of disaster risk reduction. And I don't know if you know, but I'm the chairman of the Disability and Disaster Reduction for Latin America and El Caribe. And we were working with all my colleagues from the different institutions, and we are glad to announce that next month we are going to stress and put a special emphasis in our formal declaration for the region that we are going to follow and promote DHAKA declaration. That's one thing that I want you to know. We are going to fully promote DHAKA declaration in our region. Also, I want to address something that I said the first day that I was invited here, but I want to explain why I have a resolution in my mind that I want to share with you, and I consider that it's something that we really need. If you ever noticed, when the United Nations had a great program, they always look into the way of promoting it. For instance, resilient cities, they have promoters and also have champions. When we talk about UNICEF, UNESCO, and another of that institution of these likes, they have, for instance, goodwill ambassadors. The thing is that they are having people that push ideas. Why I'm saying this? All of us, because we're people, we are not going to last forever. Every one of us is going to die anytime. But there's something that is immortal. There are some things that are immortal, ideas. When we have ideas that we can share, when we have concepts that all we agree on, when we have these things, we have something that is not going to perish. We are saying that we want to be inclusive when we are facing disasters. This is an idea, this is a concept, but we need an avatar of this idea. We need someone to take the role. I want to say something again, and I want to say this in this way. Bangladesh, as many of us here said, is a leading country. We need Bangladesh to lead this process in the world. Why we need you? Why we need Bangladesh? Because of three key elements that I want to stress here. First, Bangladesh is producing knowledge. It's not just the recipient of foreign ideas. Bangladesh you are doing things by your own. Second, you are doing things that we can replicate easily in the rest of the world. Third, you are doing those things from institutions and from the people. Bengali people are participating on this. People with disabilities are participating on this. Authorities are cooperating. I found incredibly marvelous to be in a conference where practically all the government officials were here, in some capacity or another, in some session or other. Every moment I was here, I was just facing a government that is saying to people, we really care about you. A government that is saying we are going to do things and we are doing together. A government that is not saying that they are perfect. They are saying that they want to do things for people. This is something that is not happening everywhere. When we talk about disabilities, all the time people said, maybe we suggest this, but they're not saying we're here. And this government is doing this. And we need to export to the rest of the world. So I would like to say yes. Okay, I got to stop, but could you say just one last thing? I will also stress and would say with name that we need Saima to be a person that would represent this idea worldwide. I know that I'm putting too much stress on you, but we need someone that can be in front of the leaders of the world as an equal, saying direct to their eyes that they can change things. So we need you. Thanks. That's good. She's saying that she likes to mention the country.
Thank you. Thank you. We have heard from Mr. Kaiser some very thought-provoking issues came up. Emphasis on education, leadership, and finally zooming on in our iconic leader, Madam Saima Hussain, to take the lead in the days ahead. We'll have more conversation, and now I'm looking towards Mr. Bhaskar Bhattacharjee, Program Manager, Young Power in Social Action, for his presentation, and please stick to the time limit of 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair, panelist, and guest. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak on behalf of you. We are talking about the future for making inclusive disaster management. Friends, our Honorable Prime Minister has already given a vision in 2013 by the Persons with Disability Rights and Protection Act for people with disabilities in Bangladesh. If we could implement that law, then I think there will be no barrier for people with disability in this country. We expect and believe technology can make the life easier, barrier-free, and accessible for the people with disabilities. Our Digital Bangladesh initiative is the most important opportunity have created for the people with disabilities in this country. We are making 25,000 websites accessible for all. by following W3C 2.0. We are making our information. We have innovated multimedia talking books by which people with disability can get information in accessible format. Our innovation in the meantime got the global recognition. We have got number of international awards, including WSIS Award 2017 for making accessible information for the people with disabilities. We are very honored and lucky that we have a champion like Saima Hussein. She is the champion and she is leading the world to make it inclusive and barrier free. And what I want to say, without us, nothing about us. In the meantime, our government trying to involve, engage and inform people with disabilities about their rights. We already ratified the UN Convention of Rights of Persons with Disabilities and we have a leading role to implementation of Sendai framework. We have lots of achievement in the implementation of the last decade of the persons with disabilities, which is declared by the UN escape, that is ancient strategy. So by this way, we are going to achieve our goals where everyone enjoy their rights equal basis with.
Guests, delegates, ladies and gentlemen. Um, it is a great honor to be here and also voicing out our way forward from the Pacific region. Lots has been said within these 3 days, and we thank the organizers, the government of Bangladesh, for the opportunity to be here and also to raise our voices on disability and DRR. Pacific is a small island countries. We might be small, but we also face same issues as what we have been discussing over the 3 days in this conference. And what we would like to see, what we would like to request, know that we heard from Valerie this morning that in the Pacific region, we only have the Pacific Resilience Framework, which is very limited on disability and DRR. And we also have the Pacific Disability Rights Framework that the Pacific leaders endorsed in 2016. And we therefore requesting Bangladesh government, as they are the leading country in the world on disability and DRR, that the DHAKA Declaration how can the opportunity to communicate with our Pacific leaders in bringing the agenda to the Pacific, and also having our leaders in the Pacific to be at this conference, and also to push our agenda on disability and inclusion, as we as disabled people's organizations and our regional organizations, partners, we are advocating at that level. We would need such opportunity as this, as the declaration, the DHAKA declaration, and the government to help us to invite our leaders to these such forums and have their commitment to ensure that Pacific people are not left behind in disability and inclusion and DRR, and also to encourage the declaration, the DHAKA declaration in our respective Pacific nations, and also the opportunity of disabled people's organizations within the Pacific to be at these such forums and conferences to also share our experiences and learnings, and also learn from our expertise that are in the room. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Tuimabu, for relating us to the experience of the Pacific region, especially to the small island countries' experience, and also spelling out your expectation from DHAKA declaration. Thank you. Finally, at this stage, I'm calling upon Ms. Valerie Skerer from IASC Task Force to kindly come up with her own points. Thank you.
Thank you. I won't be long, and I will make very short point. I think my first point, when we look at where we are, we have lots of commitments, but we need to translate that into action. And for me, there is a number of key elements. The first one is really to work on partnerships, because we all have different knowledge, and we need a multi-stakeholder approach that includes persons with disability, their knowledge, their skill, and their expertise. And I hope that Bangladesh could develop such partnership nationally, but also at international level, because you have a wonderful lot of experience that as a country you need to document and share. So that's one of my key elements for the future. The second one is that up to now we haven't been good in monitoring inclusion of persons with disability and their participation in disaster risk reduction or disaster risk management. And I think we really need to push forward some of the specific actions which are in the DHAKA declaration, and advocate and ensure that countries include those targets into their national plan and report against it. So we will have at least an element of monitoring. And the last one is related to financing, because I haven't heard much about financing, but there are lots of funding or finance given to DRR. What we don't know is if any of this financing is inclusive of persons with disability, and how to monitor also how much money is allocated to put forward inclusion of persons with disability, as well as their active and effective participation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Keller, for your very thought-provoking remarks, especially emphasizing on the need of finance, gender participation, and mainstreaming of disability-inclusive disaster management process. I think, ladies and gentlemen, all the four sets of comments from the panelists have set the stage for the keynote panelists. They have raised a lot of expectations, narrated their own experiences, and also they have given indication for what could be the future roadmap for disability inclusive disaster risk reduction. At this stage, it is my honor to call upon Ms. Sama Hussain, WHO's Goodwill Ambassador in the Southeast Asia region, International Focal Point, Advisory Group on Disability Inclusive Disaster Risk Management, to come up with our keynote presentation. Madam Hussain, thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the excellent panelists, a wonderful summation of these days of discussion. I would like to first start with thanking the organizers of the conference and our Ministry of Disaster Management for doing such a wonderful job. And all the attendees and their participation. It has been a wonderful event, a learning experience. I think all of us have gained a lot of knowledge from around the world. As much as I would like to, add a lot of points and have a lot to say, in the interest of time, I think we should keep in mind what our key panelists have said today and move forward on that agenda. Keeping in mind certainly that how we plan for humanitarian action should be inclusive and equitable and include the voices of persons with disabilities as advocates and self-advocates at every step of the way, from planning to implementation to management once situation is underway. To ensure both the physical needs as well as the psychological and social well-being of every single individual, particularly keeping in mind of needs of persons with disabilities, because those who are most vulnerable are the persons with disabilities. And many times we forget to do that once, even in countries like in Bangladesh where we have planned for them, we forget to ensure that their needs are well taken care of once we are in a humanitarian crisis. And another thing that Valerie Certain pointed out is having partnerships. So cooperation and collaboration within the country from the planning phase, as implementing it once we are in the situation, but also between different departments, between different organizations that work in very niche areas, and collaboration between countries. Because as our recent experience suggests, and as we see all around the world between various geopolitical incidents, between acts of terrorism, and as well as sometimes man-made and natural disasters, is that humans are displaced in large numbers. And when they are displaced, they are in an environment that may not be fully prepared. So having collaboration between countries and planning for such incidents means we are better prepared. I think everything else is pretty much very well said. If we keep in mind the Sendai framework, the Incheon strategy and the DHAKA declaration, and we really truly focus on funding many of our aims and objectives and plan to implement those same well-funded objectives, we are well on our way to making sure that we have an inclusive society where everybody is protected. Thank you.
I thank Madam Sama Hussain for her very illuminating and thought-provoking presentation. Especially she has touched upon all the key issues that emanated from the Sendai framework and how the DHAKA declaration can meet the expectation from all the participants. And she also reiterated her own personal commitment in this regard. It is my immense pleasure now to continue the conversation, and also calling upon Mr. Muhammad Riyaz Ahmed Director General DDM. Are you volunteering to come first or the Secretary will go last? So the DG Disaster Management Bureau, Mr. Riaz Ahmad has the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I think already all the issues is covered, and what we have to do in future, it is already came up. But some issues, I think they are very much important. It is public sector involvement, private sector involvement. We are already discussed that cooperation between the countries, cooperation between the government, this is essential, but if we do not engage the private sector, then 100% achievement cannot be come. And another thing, still we are in the lacking of disaggregated data. Now we have data disaggregated like this, that women, elderly people, and the children in the disaster sector. But for the betterment and for better achievement, I think the disaggregated data of different types of disabilities is essential. And we should find out one monitoring tools which is time bound, and the monitoring tools by reporting it is needed. I think in Dhaka Declaration 2018, if we add these things, this will be very much helpful for our future. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Riaz Ahmad, for your very thought-provoking presentation, entirely highlighting on the role of the private sector, for example, the need of the statistics, disaggregated statistics, and the necessity of monitoring and evaluation framework is well underlined. Thank you. Last but not the least, at this stage, I am calling upon Mr. Shah Kamal, the Distinguished Secretary of the Ministry of Disaster Management and Relief, and also a very active organizer of Bangladesh Scouts, to come up with his own points. Thank you.
Respected Chair, Honorable Chief Guest, and key panelists and other panelists, and welcome to participant to our discussion. You know that globally 15% of the world's population lives with some form of disability. They are disproportionately affected by disaster. One of the guiding principles for the implementation of the Sendai framework states that a gender, age, disability, and cultural perspective should be integrated in all policies and practices. In Priority 4, state that empowering of women, persons with disability to publicly lead and promote gender equality and universally. You know that in the 2015, there was a Dhaka Declaration in first conference. I just to give the upgrade position of Bangladesh about first declaration, that according to Action 1, the Bangladesh has taken representative of persons with disability has been included all disaster management committees in grassroots level, because we already to change our SOD and we to include all persons with disability in the union level, sub-district level, district level, and national level. And Action 1 is also declared that role of responsibility of the concern for the persons with disability has already been incorporated in the SOD, as well as we to assign to their right. And Action 2 and 3, a national task force has already been launched to monitor the progress. And it was, and Bangladesh established a national level database on disability issue with special focus on the cyclone prone coastal districts. And through survey, it is estimated that there are around 0.41 million persons with disability which are in category-wise gender, age and types of disability. This survey is continuous. Because if we to identify where they are to live in, if any disaster, we can to evacuate to them in earlier. And this is in our contingency plan. In respect to action point 8, the government of Bangladesh nominated Ms. Saima Hussain as a international focal point, and there was in other minimum 5 countries to appoint their international focal point. This is almost Bangladesh to taken some initiative to implement the declaration of 2015. In future, today we also to declare the 2018 declaration, and we have some future plan. That future plan is persons with disability need to actively engage in planning, implementation, monitoring, disaster risk reduction actions in climate change policies, risk prevention and mitigation. Therefore, the barriers and active participation have to be removed and capacity building program need to be ended. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Shah Kamal, Secretary, for your very important presentation on highlighting some important points and drawing on the DHAKA declaration that came out during the first conference and relating it to the participants has been very important. And as the Secretary of the Disaster Management and Relief, your activity and your partnership with all the different sectors coming from public, private and the civil society has been very visible, and it is again reiterated. I think now we will be entering into another very interesting phase. We will be asking for participation from the floor, but we know that the concluding session is also coming up soon. There will be the participation of important dignitaries, including the Honorable Speaker of the Parliament. So we'll make it very short. I propose to make a 10 minutes open floor session. So you would be requested to kindly come up with points, not addressing the stage. I'm seeing the gentleman in the front, and at this stage we welcome on the dais His Excellency Mr. Mufazzal Hussain Chaudhry Maya, the Honorable Minister for Disaster Management. Please, the microphone will be reached to you. Just please identify the name and the organization you belong to and come up with your comments.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, for giving me the forum. I'm Dr. A.M. Zakir Hussain. Used to work for government. For 29 years, I have served the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, and then I worked for some time at the WHO in regional office. I also worked for Asian Development Bank for some time. I have just one small suggestion, and all these presentations given within short period of 3 minutes were wonderful, very educative. So from there I have gleaned one particular thing. See, technology, if somebody has talked about technology, technology is a combination of technique, tool and skill. So when we talk about technology, I think we have to see that all these areas are strengthened at the same goal. Technique, tool and skill. And then government has in fact given much emphasis on innovation, and innovation should be in fact aimed at bringing in, ensuring effectiveness and efficiency in using the technology. Second and last is, I strongly believe, personally, I believe you also agree, that we need to further strengthen camaraderie among all those who are supposed to provide services during disaster, and then respectful empathy. When we talk about empathy, we usually look down upon those who are being helped, but this is not empathy. It should be respectful empathy. We are not doing any kindness. We are doing our duties. And that should be part of education system. And our education should develop a sense among students that you have to respect people without any creed, without any physical or psychological distinctions. And that is sense of inclusivity in education, focusing on gender, poverty, illiteracy, and culture. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and very good points. Can we go to the, yes, the microphone goes to the third row, yes, in the middle. Yes, please identify yourself and come up with your point.
Thank you, sir. Khurshid from UNDP. I'm Assistant Country Director of UNDP. I think we're very lucky in Bangladesh that we have a political commitment from very highest level to make sure that inclusive development, inclusive disaster management should go forward. We're also lucky that we're hosting second time the International Disability Conference, Disability and Disaster Conference in Bangladesh. Now I'm just thinking, other countries who are not participating or who do not have opportunity to know what's being discussed here, how can you communicate? How this declaration can go to the other leaders of the other countries. As the Principal Secretary, the Secretary Disaster Management, Minister of Disaster Management, honorable dignitaries are all here. How can we communicate that? That's the major point. Second point, at Bangladesh, I know Minister of Disaster Management organized periodic review of the implementation of the declaration. So how can we make it more regular and what you say, the partnership inclusive where everybody can participate? As you know that UNDP hosts the system-wide coordination secretariat, how disability can be mainstream within the UN system. From that point of view, we can offer our service in translating the declaration into all UN languages. And if you need any further assistance, we're very happy to provide you that, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Khurshid, for making your point. We have had two male participants. We'll be having a partnership of male and female. So I'm identifying one female candidate there, and there will be another female candidate. Then we'll go to the third round of male candidates.
Thank you, sir, towards the inclusive participation. My name is Rabia Sultana. I'm the country director for HelpAge International. We are working for the population aging. I'm highly glad that the elder persons inclusive issues has raised and has collectively covered in few sessions. But to draw your attention, while we talk about inclusive humanitarian package, we should talk about all ages inclusiveness, irrespective of from psychosocial disorder to the technology and other era. I'd like to draw all your attention just to share that 13% of the world population are above 60 years. And the whole world is growing aging. The persons with disability with ages, they grow with competencies, but also with ages the vulnerability and exclusion has also increased. So while you will summing up with the discussions, kindly consider that we should be with the lens of age inclusive and all age inclusive humanitarian package, and let's Bangladesh be a model to respect the senior citizens and to inclusive of all ages. Thank you so very much.
Thank you for these very thoughtful points. I'm looking for another female participant, maybe from within the brothers and sisters who are sitting in the wheelchair. Any female কেউ বলবেন? বাংলায় বলতে পারেন। আচ্ছা আচ্ছা, তা আপনি মাঝখানে সেকেন্ড রাইতে আমাদের ভাই একজন কথা বলবেন, ওয়ান অফ আওয়ার ব্রাদার্স অন দি হুইল চেয়ার্স।
থ্যাংক ইউ সুযোগ দেওয়ার জন্য। আমি মোহাম্মদ আসাদুজ্জামান, নির্বাহী পরিচালক কুড়িগ্রাম প্রতিবন্ধী কল্যাণ সংস্থা। আমি কুড়িগ্রাম থেকে আসছি। আমার প্রশ্ন হলো, বাংলাদেশের আসলে শিক্ষা প্রতিষ্ঠানগুলোতেই প্রতিবন্ধী বান্ধব শিক্ষার ব্যবস্থা নেই এবং প্রতিবন্ধীদের জন্য নেই কোনো প্রতিবন্ধী বান্ধব টয়লেটের ব্যবস্থা। আর যদি প্রতিবন্ধীদের এই যে বিশেষ শিক্ষাগুলোকেই যদি বিশেষ স্বীকৃতি দেওয়া যায়, তাহলে প্রতিবন্ধী বান্ধব শিক্ষা অর্জন করতে পারবে। আর আরেকটা হলো যে বাংলাদেশের সকল ডিপিওগুলোকে যদি শক্তিশালী করা হয়, তাহলে প্রতিবন্ধী মানুষের ন্যায্য অধিকারগুলো আদায় করে নিতে পারবে বা তারা সক্ষমতা অর্জন করতে পারবে। থ্যাংক ইউ।
Thank you for very important comments, especially on how to make education institutions disability friendly and others. I've recognized two, one of our visually impaired participant there at the front. Yeah, and then you. I think we'll close the open session then. Yeah, apni bolun.
Can I speak in Bangla or English?
Your choice.
Okay.
Your choice.
আমি বাংলায় বলি, প্লিজ ট্রান্সলেট করে দিবেন।
Yeah, please.
তো আমি যেটা বলতে যাচ্ছি সেটা হচ্ছে, কালকে আমি একটা সেশনে অংশগ্রহণ করেছিলাম টুয়ার্ডস এ রেজিলিয়েন্ট সিটি অ্যান্ড অ্যাক্সেসিবল আরবান প্ল্যানিং। তো আমি যেটা অনুরোধ করব যে অ্যাক্সেসিবল একটা সিটি যেন তৈরি করা হয়, তাহলে আমরা এই ডিজাস্টার থেকে মুক্তি পাবো। কারণ হচ্ছে এটা একটা দীর্ঘমেয়াদী প্রক্রিয়া। তো আমি এখান থেকে সবাইকে ডিজাস্টার ম্যানেজমেন্ট মিনিস্ট্রি বা সবাইকে বলবো যে একটা অ্যাক্সেসিবল এনভায়রনমেন্ট প্রতিবন্ধীদের জন্য করা, তাহলে এটা দীর্ঘমেয়াদী প্রক্রিয়া এবং এটা যেন করা হয়। এবং মাননীয় প্রধানমন্ত্রীর দপ্তরে আমি শুনেছি কালকে যে একটা জাতীয় বিল্ডিং কোড করা হচ্ছে, সেই বিল্ডিং কোডটাতে যেন পুরোটা অ্যাক্সেসিবিলিটি যেন ইনশিওর করা হয়, সেভাবে করে দ্রুত যেন পাস করা হয়, তাহলে আমরা এই ডিজাস্টার থেকে মুক্ত পাবো। এবং আরেকটা জিনিস যেটা আমি একটু এই প্রোগ্রাম এখান থেকে বলতে যাচ্ছি, আমি প্রতিবন্ধী ব্যক্তি হিসাবে যেটা হচ্ছে যে আমি এত বছর আমি কোনো ড্রিল বা কোনো ট্রেনিং পাইনি যে আমি একটা আর্থকুয়েক বা একটা ফ্লাড হলে আমি নিজেকে কীভাবে সেভ করব। তো এই ড্রিল বা এইসব যে ট্রেনিং, এগুলো যেন লোকাল গভর্নমেন্টের মাধ্যমে আমাদেরকে ইনশিওর করা হয়, তাহলে আমরা হয়তো অনেকটাই দুর্যোগের সময় নিজেকে সেভ করতে পারবো। এবং রেস্কিউ অপারেশনের সময় যখন আমরা যদি কোনো রেস্কিউ করতে যাই আমাকে, তখন যেন আমি তাদেরকেও কোঅপারেট করতে পারি, কারণ এটা দুই তরফ থেকে হতে হবে। একজন রেস্কিউ পার্সোনাল আমাকে রেস্কিউ করতে গেলে তখন আমিও যেন তাকে হেল্প করতে পারি যে হ্যাঁ আমি এইখানে আছি, প্লিজ হেল্প মি। তো আমি এই আহ্বানটা জানাবো। থ্যাংক ইউ।
Very good. Thank you.
অর্গানাইজেশনের নামটা বলে যে আমি রিফাত পাশা, ওয়ার্ক ফর বেটার বাংলাদেশ ট্রাস্ট।
Very good. Thank you. Making important points on access and especially implementation of the building code, which is disability friendly, and finally the critical role of the local government institutions like the private sector. So the gentleman on the right column.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Honorable Chief Guest, Honorable Minister, Honorable Pioneer of Global Autism
No
Awareness
address,
Campaign,
please. Just please come to the point.
Saima Hussain Putul.
Yeah.
I am Pope Prince Poet Masood Rana Black and White. I am the Chairman, CEO and Ambassador of International Autism Foundation, President and Principal of Black and White Autism School. I have dedicated my life for the children with autism, for their development. Now I am singing a song for persons with disability and children with autism. Autistic children, you are not alone. I do love you. Autistic children, you are not alone. We do feel you.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you
Thank
so
you.
much. Thank you so much. Let's give them a big round of applause. We have dedicated almost 11 minutes for the open session, and we have heard several very important contributions. I'm looking at the watch. The time is running fast, so we'll not be engaging the panelists for further response. I've seen that they've taken extensive notes, and the declaration will address a lot of these issues. At this stage, it is my immense pleasure to call upon the Honorable Chief Guest, Dr. Gohar Rizvi, International Affairs Advisor to Honorable Prime Minister, to come up with his valuable remarks. Sir, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chairperson, fellow panelists, ladies and gentlemen. Let me first thank and congratulate the Ministry of Disaster Management and Relief for hosting this conference. This is the second of the conferences, but not only for hosting the conference, what I thought was particularly imaginative was to link the concern of the disabled with disaster. This is something which often gets neglected, is unheard, and therefore I am truly grateful both to the Minister and to the Secretary and his colleagues for doing that. Secondly, and here I say with much pride, I want to thank Saima, who's sitting next to me, for truly, in a very short period of time, making our concern for disability and bringing it into the mainstream. It was, for ages, a peripheral issue. It was left to those who were suffering, where only it was seemed as if it was their concern. And so I'm really grateful, Tama, that you have helped us to mainstream it. You have provoked our conscience, and you have sometimes shamed us into becoming more empathetic with those who have been less fortunate than us. Thank you. I want to start with a few one or two comments, and that is, when we talk of disability, we are not only talking of physical disability. That is already there, and we know it. Unfortunately, those who are physically disabled, society converges, brings other forms of disabilities on the disabled. If you look at disability, the disabled are also suffering from access to education, access to employment, access to movement, free movement, and access to many facilities and opportunities that the society provides. So, we are not simply dealing with the question of physical disability, but a convergence of all forms of disabilities that are heaped. It is no wonder that those who are disabled are also most impoverished, in many cases least educated because they have no access to education. They are least employed because they don't have fair access to employment. So in talking about disability, and though the focus is on disaster and disability, we must not forget all that. And disability, unfortunately, is not only something that nature, it happens in nature, we are born with it, but unfortunately, in every field, in every aspect of our life, the disabled are at the bottom of the heap. If there is a stampede in a stadium, it is those who are vulnerable, those who are weak, and those who are disabled die first. If a boat capsizes, it is the same story. And therefore, it is very, very important for us why we should focus on it. And here, we can take heart. Here, we can feel confident that in Bangladesh, truly, dreams become realities. Many of you will remember and this shows when Bangladesh focused on disaster management, what it could achieve. In 1970, our Honorable Minister will remember, there was a cyclone in Bhola and other outlying districts. 1 million people had died. Last year, we had a similar cyclone with similar intensity, and our disaster preparedness was such, only, however sad, only a single digit number of people died. This shows what society can do when it decides to do something. And I think time has now come for us to put the same political and social commitment to remove our disabled brothers and sisters and children are already born with disability. The society should not punish them for it. Society should help and extend its hands so that we can relieve their suffering. Number of people have made this point, but I will repeat. And I will say with some sadness in my heart that today we are hearing a lot about merit-based society. Let me tell you one thing. Merit-based society only exists where the playing field is even. And every child, girl, man and woman has equal opportunities. If our disabled brothers, sisters and daughters and sons are not compensated for the uneven disadvantages that they suffer from, and then to insist that competition should be on merit, I think those people who make this argument need to have their head examined. We have to compensate because disability, a one-legged man and two-legged man cannot run at the same speed in a race. Therefore, you have to compensate. And that is why affirmative action is so important in our society and our life. And before we talk of anything else, let's create an even playing field, and then we will talk about doing away with affirmative action. Be that as it may, we can do much. Government has passed a law that all buildings should have disabled access. Why has that law not been enforced? We need to enforce that law. This should be enforced not only in public buildings, but also in private buildings. Governments have provided special opportunities for employment of the disabled. Private sector is also a part of our society. Private sector also benefits from our taxpayers. Why should the private sector not open its doors to those who are disabled and give them opportunities? I think we should join hands, we should bring pressure to make sure that the responsibility of disabilities is not only on the government, on the society as a large, as a whole. And in everything, every day when we get up, we must try to visualize. We must try to put ourselves in the place of a disabled person and see the world through their prism. And only when we see the world through their prism, we will begin to appreciate how much advantageous we are, and therefore we need to give them the same advantage. Anyway, we are short of time. I will end, but I want to end on a very hopeful note. We have made great progress. A new declaration will be made, and I do hope Saima will continue to provide the leadership that we look to you to provide to make sure that we Bangladesh, as I said, is a land where dreams become real. And one of the dreams is to create a society where our disabled will not feel in any way discriminated. Thank you. Joy Bangla, Joy Bongo Bandhu.
Thank you, Honorable Chief Guest, for your very important and inspiring remarks. All of us are greatly inspired by this. Now it is my time to bring this session to an end, and I don't want to make any long remarks, but to share with you some of my take-home messages. Firstly, I've seen the enthusiasm among the participants, especially I've identified this forum as a special forum which will advocate for disability inclusive disaster management, and I've learned a lot of new knowledge from all of you. Secondly, as we are living in the age of sustainable development, I have been inspired by the remarks from the panelists who came from abroad, especially on the kind of role Bangladesh has been playing to make disaster reduction framework disability inclusive. And this is not happening out of the blue. It started right from the emergence of Bangladesh through the leadership of the founding father, our father of the nation, and the political will that is demonstrated by Honorable Prime Minister herself. You have heard her day before yesterday. And finally, the torch is being also handed over to a very enthusiastic leader, Madam Saima Hussain, who has kindly taken upon herself the responsibility to organize such forum. So this is a message that we have a plan in terms of making disaster risk reduction disability inclusive. Thirdly, I'm very confident that the remarks that we have heard from the floor, you are focusing on the core issues. The technology, for example, has been highlighted, role of technology, the access, the inclusiveness, and the song that we have heard singing on the issue of autism has also encouraged us, and will hopefully incorporate all the elements into the DHAKA declaration that you have drafted. But for policy planners like us, we'll be keeping in mind that planning is easy, but implementation is difficult. So we'll focus on the implementation part. We'll also share this with other regions, other countries, so that all the countries are fully on board on the issue of making disaster risk reduction disability inclusive. So my final task would be thank you, all of you, distinguished participants, panelists, the Honorable Chief Guest, and especially the Honorable Minister who is kindly present here, for making this conference a really result-oriented conference. This is not a conference which is producing words. You are focusing on deeds, and that's why I am bringing up the issue of implementation at the forefront. So thank you very much. Have a wonderful afternoon today. Thank you.
Inshallah. My God.
Dear participants, guests from overseas and local, our closing ceremony will be held within very short time, within a couple of minutes. Honorable Speaker of Parliament, he is arriving. She is arriving within few minutes. Please, the outside, please you stay here, and hopefully within 5 minutes we will start the closing ceremony.
young scouts. Thank you very much for that.
ভলান্টিয়ার যারা আছেন তারা বসেন, আমরা কয়েক মিনিটের মধ্যেই আমাদের ক্লোজিং সেরিমনি শুরু হবে। আমাদের ক্লোজিং সেরিমনির প্রধান অতিথি মাননীয় স্পিকার অল্প কিছুক্ষণের মধ্যে এই কক্ষে ঢুকবেন। আমরা বিনীতভাবে অনুরোধ করব আপনাদেরকে এই রুমেই থাকার জন্য। আমরা খুব স্বল্প সময়ের মধ্যে আমাদের সমাপনী অনুষ্ঠান এখানে শুরু হবে।